the Golf Business Studios, we have two very special guests with us. The first is Ravi K. Ranjan, who is a well-known entrepreneurship evangelist and startup expert. Ravi is also the driving force behind Shark Tank India and has so far trained more than 200,000 entrepreneurs, 20,000 academicians, and has been a speaker at over 2,000 startup events across the world. But alongside Ravi, we also have another special guest, and that is Paddy Upton. Paddy is well regarded for being part of the coaching and performance teams that helped steer the South African and Indian cricket teams to great heights, those being number one positions in the ICC rankings and World Cup wins. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you. Good to be here.
Wonderful to be here, Gareth.
Great. Ravi, can you tell us about the funds for some of the top cricketers in the world that you are managing at the moment?
Thanks a lot, Gareth. First of all, really great to be here. And I think this question is very interesting as we are going through the World Cup right now. I was back in India a couple of days ago, and the atmosphere is just beautiful. Thousands of fans going crazy every day, and the records are being broken. They are being built every single day. So as we know, India, we have the second religion, which is cricket. People truly love cricket. Interestingly, over the last few years, a lot of cricketers, both active and some of them who are retired, they realize that there's a huge opportunity where they can add value to the growing startup ecosystem in India by not only being a brand ambassador or endorsing the brand, but also taking an active lead, being a part of their cap table, investing at an early stage or late stage. So interestingly, at the moment, I represent Shikhar Dhawan's large sports tech fund, which is a $75 million fund focused on sports tech. Interestingly, it's based out of Abu Dhabi in UAE. We are looking at global sports tech opportunities where we can change the landscape of gaming. My extended team also used to manage funds for Yuvraj Singh, who's another very famous Indian cricketer. And in the current fund, we have a couple of other cricketers who are helping us as well, both in terms of adding capital as well as helping the startups go to the next level.
Wow, that's incredible. And both of you are in the business world. But Paddy, you weren't always in the business world. In fact, you come from the high-performance sporting space. Obviously, having taken India and the Proteas to great heights. We all know those great teams that you were part of. What can the high-performance sporting world teach the business world specifically?
It's actually interesting, Gareth. I'm sort of known as the sports guy, but interestingly, if I take a step back, before I joined the Indian team in 2011, I'd actually spent the last 7 or 8 years working as a business coach and a business leadership coach, following doing a master's degree in business coaching. And it was during that period of understanding how the landscape of leadership changing from the industrial era, which we only exited from maybe 20 years ago, into the current knowledge age, and what are the requirements for leaders in the knowledge age, and how is that different? And it was during that time that I really understood, number one, why was executive or business coaching at the time the second fastest growing profession in the world behind IT, but what was driving it, what was the change? And the light bulb went on for me, having been involved in cricket at the international level prior to then, is what was the requirement of the knowledge age of sports coaches, and how was that going to be different from what I call the old school? You appoint the cleverest person to be the coach, they're the content expert, and they lead by instructing or telling people what to do, and you create little followers of instruction out of your athletes, and that takes away a lot of the thinking. There is no creativity of the athletes. They just, as I said, they're required to be followers of instruction. So I actually entered the sports world in 2008 with Gary Kirsten, supporting Gary around what does the modern day sports coach look like. So the parallels between sport and business are very obvious. Both are high performance environments. The sport is much more immediate in terms of the scoreboard. But one of the things, I guess, and what I'm passionate about is what is the impact of leadership, or really healthy leadership. And for me, that's bringing a healthy balance between masculine energies of delivering with commitment and focus on the goal, and feminine energies of inclusivity, listening, caring, empathy, creating a sense of belonging, engaging employees or engaging players. And when you have a healthy balance of that leadership, that has a certain impact on the team culture. Similarly, when you have an imbalance, it has an impact on the team culture. And the team culture is the biggest influencer of athletes or employees' mindsets. So everyone's always said, in the last 10, 20 years, the mental side of sport is so important. It's the most important aspect. And let's get in sports psychologists to deal with it. But the reality is the team culture is actually the mental conditioner of the players' minds, and the people who set the culture is the team leadership, which is captain and coach and or senior players. So the parallels are, I think for me, probably most important at the high level is, do you have a healthy balance of leadership? And I'm not talking about male and female. I'm talking about masculine energy and feminine energy that both males and females can bring, with a healthy balance of executing on task and engaging, creating a healthy environment. That then sets up, and you've got a healthy relationship with chasing success, healthy relationship with failure, being okay, failing fast, learning from failure. When you have that ingredient, it's like almost an environment that you want to plant healthy seeds. When you've got a healthy environment, plants grow to their natural potential. And then that influences the players' minds or the employees' mindsets. So that's sort of really high level, and there's a lot of other similarities. And at the end of the road, the principles of success, of excellence, of high performance, of leadership, they're universal, those principles. They just applied very differently, be it cricket, rugby, IT, marketing, finance, or startups.
And do you find that leadership teams among the corporates that you speak to are beginning to change that mindset? I mean, beginning to adopt what you refer to as the masculine and feminine aspects into their approach?
Gareth, we've been hearing just out there in the last while sort of about the triple bottom line. What the masculine energy is really about delivering on revenue. That's the bottom line. When it comes to managing people and having the healthy environmental impact on more feminine energies. There's a conversation that I hear time and time again out in certainly the business space is we need more women in leadership. But I don't think that's the crux of the conversation, because you can get more women in leadership and they can bring really strong masculine energy, or they can feel they need to act like the male leaders, where I do think the conversation would benefit from shifting towards what are healthy masculine energies. If you have too much masculine energy of win at all costs, delivering on the bottom line, executing, no tolerance for mediocrity, you end up with a very disengaged, high turnover environment. Similarly, if you have too much feminine energy in a leadership team and there's engagement and good conversation and collaboration and listening and caring and empathy, you can have a wonderfully warm, fuzzy environment that actually doesn't deliver results. And I think if we can be shifting that conversation to, yes, of course we need equal representation, and diversity inclusion is a very important conversation, but I think we're missing out of what are the ingredients we're looking for in that diversity and that inclusion, not just tick the box having women and more women and more people from diverse backgrounds. It's what do they actually bring, and how can we harness that power that diversity inclusion can really bring if we harness the value that it actually inherently has, but might be missed out on if it's just a numbers game.
So Ravi, having listened to what Paddy has just spoken about diversity and the right ingredients to enhance performance, what are you seeing in terms of the similarities between the high performing sporting world that Paddy has come from and the world that you're in, which is angel investing, finding that next unicorn? There must be huge pressure around that.
No, absolutely, Gareth. And I would say I've actually seen this happening in India. Way back in 2010, when I joined the Indian startup ecosystem, we had less than 2,000 startups. It was really difficult to build a business in India. Government guidelines, compliance, etc., access to capital, they were all challenges. However, something magical happened in the last 13 years. Today, as we are in 2023, India is the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. From less than 2,000 startups to today, more than 200,000 startups, 111 unicorns, combined valuation of $450 billion. What's so interesting is that there are so many countries across the world who could have got this spot. India got it, and in a very difficult scenario, rupee to dollar conversion, very, very difficult. A lot of good talent from India is working in Silicon Valley. A lot of, capital was with hedge funds in North America. A lot of family office capital was in Southeast Asia and China. However, once you really want to achieve that goal, as we always know, the nature starts helping you. So eventually, what happened is that the ecosystem came together. Till 2015, there was not an official policy from the government side on how to help the startups. In fact, it was so difficult to recognize what a startup is. That's when I had an opportunity in 2015 to work with the Indian government, where we wrote something called as the Startup India Policy, which actually defined how startups work, what is an angel investment, how do you tax them, how do you tax their exits. Because interestingly, there are a lot of startups in India who have given really amazing returns. Companies have started from zero and they became $1 billion in 6 months. We have examples like that in India today. When you bring these collective energy together, and when you really empower people to achieve these numbers, it starts happening. And I've seen that, as I'm saying, till 5 years ago in India, one of the biggest opportunity in terms of career was, you either become a doctor or an engineer. If not, then maybe you go into another stream. Building a business where for the first few years you're not sure about profit. Forget about profit. You're not sure about revenues. Convincing your parents, because India is a very social driven country, very deeply connected to family values, very deeply connected to how the family perceive you. So whenever you take a decision, being a cricketer, being an entrepreneur, your family is involved. So breaking all these glass barriers and actually building these new age companies was very challenging for a country like India. But again, everyone really wanted to achieve it. So we have that today. We are just behind US and China. And looking at the current numbers, we are going to surpass one of the top three countries and become the number two. This is one side of the story. Second side of the story is that there are really amazing founders, both male and female. I mean, to be honest, I have never seen them from a gender lens. I've always seen them from an innovator lens of what are you trying to build? Are you trying to build a company which will impact hundreds of thousands of people with access to clean water, or access to healthcare, or access to education? And when we invest in companies, we have invested in more than 400 startups so far. We have 5 unicorns and multiple soonicorns. But the biggest criteria we look at is, are you solving a problem? And I think it's the same in cricket. There was a time in Indian cricket history where things were not going well. We had very difficult scenario, and in fact, that's when some of the global coaches came and started coaching India, and we saw a turnaround. People like Mohammad Kaf and people like Yuvraj Singh and Irfan Pathan, they became the opener. Nobody expected them to open for India, but things changed from a team which was not known for the fitness, as we love eating really good unhealthy food. Today, India has the most fit players in the world, one of the most fit, right? I mean, you see their performance on the field, and it all happens because you evolve every single day with the requirement of the world. So it's true and valid both for business, sport, and entrepreneurship, that you need to adapt and you need to evolve every single day as the world changes.
And Ravi, you're now looking to take the success that you've mentioned about the startup ecosystem in India having grown so fantastically to this part of the world, because you are going to be hosting the Super Angel Summit in Abu Dhabi next month. Can you tell us a bit more about that summit? And also, can you give us some insight into the state of the angel investment scene here in the UAE and the Gulf, generally speaking?
Sure. Thanks a lot, Gareth. To be honest, we are building one event which we think is going to add a lot of value. But again, who cares? Dubai is the capital of event. There's one event happening every single day. So honestly, we're not building an event. We are starting a movement to celebrate the spirit of angel investment, a movement to bring our expertise from India into the Middle East and especially in UAE, and a movement to make sure that angel investors from across the world can come at one conference and meet each other. Let me give you a quick background on why we are building this Super Angel Summit. In 2018, I started looking at a large gap in India where we had just around 2,000 angel investors. But the potential is huge. A country of 1.5 billion, with so many people having disposable income, they are putting money, but they are putting in equity, real estate, gold. Real estate is the safest option for a lot of people even today. What we realized is that India would not be able to grow as a startup ecosystem if we cannot find local capital, and especially capital from individual who we call as angel investor. So I built a program called Angel Investment Masterclass, a very short 60 to 90 minute physical program where we used to travel across the country and train people who are business owners, CXOs, on how they can support startup ecosystem by helping them grow, but at the same time make a lot of money, because while angel investment is a very high risk and high return asset class, it has given some crazy returns. I mean, I remember one of our company, we convinced one of the investor to put money in the first round of that company. In less than 2 years, that investor got 197x return on the investment. Again, I'm not promoting that this is the best option. You have to make sure that you go through all the due diligence and you take care of your capital, because it's capital at risk. No angel investment or investment network would guarantee that your capital would come back. Forget about returns. But again, there are stories across the world of how people have really made really huge amount of wealth from angel investment. So fast forward, we started educating people, and today with Angel Investment Masterclass, we have been able to educate more than 10,000 people, and out of that, 6,000 people have actually become angel investor. This was one of the biggest driving force behind India becoming third largest in a very short span of time. You have to always remember that India always has the currency disparity and certain other challenges. We thought we have been able to do that in a complex market like India. UAE is a very advanced and mature market. People understand finance really well. People understand how to grow business really well. But when we looked at the data says something else. Today in UAE, we have less than 1,000 angel investors. I would say we don't even have 500 active investors. Do we not have money in UAE? We have the most amount of money in UAE. The challenge is the education part of it. People are empowered to put money in stock exchanges, both in this region and across the world, into real estate, which is one of the biggest sector in UAE. I believe that we need to educate more and more people about angel investment, and that's when we reached out to Abu Dhabi government, and they were really kind to support us in building this conference. This is the first edition, but our objective is that in the next 3 years, we want UAE to come on the angel investment landscape of the world and be one of the most vibrant ecosystem. We want global startups to come and raise capital locally. We want angels from UAE to be able to find the best opportunities across the world. So we're doing this on December 15th and 16th in Abu Dhabi, and we already have some really amazing response coming in. We have, in fact, Shikhar Dhawan is coming to the event. He is one of the cricketer. We have some other celebrities coming in. A lot of angel investors are coming in. Global partners from across the world are coming in. Multiple government agencies are coming in. So we're very excited. And I personally truly believe that UAE is the next big thing when we talk about startups or angel investment.
So, Paddy, just building upon Ravi's point there, obviously you deal a lot with big corporates and with a lot of the high-flying CEOs out there. But have you ever dealt with startups and with angel investors? And if you have, what is your take on that space and the pressures that space is under, especially from a mental point of view?
Yeah. So I think first of all, I mean, it was really exciting to sit and listen to what Ravi's saying about what's happening in India, what they were able to create, and how they're now taking that beyond India into this region. It's awesome and really exciting. What I said earlier, Gareth, is that the principles of success are universally applicable. So yes, I have worked with some startups, and if we let's go and look at what's tried and tested, is that if I go across to sport, we're in a World Cup cricket now, getting into very close to the qualifiers. What are the most important things for the teams that are going to win, or the team that's going to win the World Cup? And what we know is they are going to attend to the basics the best. That's your foundation for success. Do the basics really well. So what are the basics for a startup? Well, a startup, it relies very often on one individual. So you need to, if you're the individual, you're the instrument of that business, you need to fine-tune yourself as an instrument. What is the fundamentals of that? You need to be in a great space. physically, mentally, emotionally, to be able to make the right decisions and sustain it and bring the energy. So simple. It's so unsexy, but one of the most important things that we need to do is get good sleep. If you're not getting good sleep, you're compromising your sleep by 1 or 2 hours per night. Within 4 to 5 days, your body, and you measured your blood glucose, most people will be pre-diabetic already. Just on 4 or 5 days lack of sleep, 1 to 2 hours a night. Based on that, the body will naturally crave sugar and will crave fatty foods. So your diet will go for a ball of chalk. If you're tired, you will eat badly. If you eat badly, you will not want to exercise. It will impair your mental, your functioning, your decision making, your patience, your tolerance, your understanding. So the entire quality that you bring to the instrument of leadership or as an entrepreneur will be significantly compromised if you get those basics wrong. So as an entrepreneur, eat well, sleep well, do your exercise. The fourth piece, the fourth basic that's so important is relationships. Make sure the important relationships in your life, family and friends, are there, because that's what sustains us. And then business is about relationships. Today, people like doing business with people they like and they trust. Yes, you need a decent product. Yes, you need a decent price point. But that's not enough to go the distance. You need to have great relationships. And the fifth point is stress. Managing stress. As an entrepreneur, as a startup, there's a lot of stress. Yes, you will have late nights. Yes, you will have difficult decisions. Yes, you're going to wonder, am I even going to generate some revenue? Where's my next meal coming from? That's stressful. How well are you managing the stress? Because if that gets the better of us, it undermines our ability to perform, and it also, stress is a killer if it happens for any length of time. So what are you doing to manage your stress? And fortunately, sleep, eating well, and exercise are 3 of the best stress management tools, and then good relationships. So those 5 things that I've said, sleep, nutrition, exercise, relationships, stress management, they're not sexy, they're not cool, but they are the fundamentals. And then from there, again, what do we draw from athletes in a really high pressure situation? Pressure and fear comes from the mind being either stuck in the past and something that's gone wrong. If you think about something that's gone wrong enough, you will undermine your confidence. Or if your mind is stuck and spending too much time in the future, either desperately chasing success, that creates pressure, or scared of failing, that creates fear. Pressure and fear are 2 of the biggest mental obstacles to success in sport, in life, and particularly with entrepreneurs. So what are you looking to do is, whatever has gone wrong or in the past, you need to learn from that and move on fast. Yes, you want to look at what success do I want to achieve and what failure do I want to avoid. Use that as information and say, right, what is my plan to set up for success? What's my plan to avoid failure? Come back into this present moment and focus on executing. Then you won't have any mental stress, pressure, fears, anxieties. If you feel pressure, stress, anxiety, it's because your mind is stuck in the future, too desperate for things to go well, or too scared for things to go badly. That'll happen, but if you spend too much time dwelling there, like any athlete, you're out of the present, it'll compromise your performance, and you will make mistakes and be less impactful. So there's some real basic stuff that's universally applicable.
I think that those are such great points to have made there. And Ravi, I'd love to get your take on that.
I have personally experienced all of this. I'll share my story. In 2019, after many years of traveling 20 days a month, eating on flight, both breakfast and dinner, partying every single day, having alcohol and all of that thing, which is absolutely unhealthy. But again, that's how the world is. I took a decision that no, this cannot continue. I have to really put effort onto this. I took a break. I spent 2 months going back to the roots. So in India, we have Vedas. These are ancient scriptures which talks about how you live. This talks about how you how you live your life. And as Paddy, I'm sure you must have seen, these basics really help. I started eating healthy, started doing a little bit of workout, not going to the gym every day, just basic workout, doing yoga. I was able to lose almost 16 kgs in 2 months. When I did that, my entire outlook on life, on giving my 100% changed. I said, listen, I can do all of this, even better, but this being in shape, being healthy, both physically and mentally, helped a lot. Again, COVID happened. You could not go out, cannot work out. You are eating at home, and most of the food is not very healthy. again this year, while building Super Angel Summit, which was very busy and demanding, again my travel went really, really bad. I took a break for a month. Every single day I was working, but I was also contributing a lot of time on losing weight again. Again, in 2 months, I lost 14 kg of weight. It's not very good to lose and gain again, but again, that's how the life is. What I'm trying to say is that fortunately, today in the world of social media, there are a lot of good people who are talking about the importance of being healthy, because being healthy is one of the most important thing when you're building a business, you are starting something new, or you are an athlete. No matter what work you do on a day-to-day basis, it's really important that we give equal time to being healthy, because that adds value to all our goals and achievements. Sometimes in this race we forget these really fundamental things and we lose. I think that's my take on this.
So, Ravi, I'm going to reserve the last question for you. If I'm a startup who's going to be attending your Super Angels Summit next month, what are the 3 pieces of advice you would give me if I'm going to go and pitch in front of some of your top investors there?
That's a very good question, Gareth. First of all, if you're a startup going to Super Angel Summit, you are going to a gold mine, because this is an investor focused summit where we have majority of the people coming who are either investors as an angel or a VC fund. If you come to the event, you just be ready with your really quick short pitch, because you're meeting investors every corner. Be ready with a lot of interesting ideas, because these investors are meeting hundreds of people throughout next 1 hour. So you have to say something which they will remember. So let's say you're building a device which can measure blood glucose without pricking. Okay, that is something which I will remember, because I know that my father is diabetic and he has to prick every time. Try and build a story which the person will remember, because as a VC, as an investor, we meet so many startups day in and day out. You forget everything unless someone comes and says something which is very unusual or something very exciting. That is why you will see that on one side there are startups who are struggling to raise even a small round of capital, and then there are startups who are building something very unique. There's no revenue. It's not going to come for the next 3-4 years. But the idea is so appealing that investors literally fight to get a seat on the table, to be able to put their money. So we have both the examples in the startup world. One side, people struggling to raise capital. Other side, there's overflow of capital. So as a startup, I think this conference is really, really unique, because you'll be able to meet so many investors. So just be ready with your pitch, have a really interesting story, and just hustle and network day in and day out for the 2 days at the event.
Ravi and Paddy, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast today. Thank you very much for coming into studio today.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.